Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. 2023, it's been dead for 11 days now, so I believe it's time for me to look through the last bit of 2023, the final month of 2023, that being December. And let me tell you, December was sad, just absolutely weak. And that doesn't mean that every movie did terrible. There are some movies that did better than I would have ever anticipated. But it didn't change the fact that this past December was so lackluster, especially compared to the previous two Decembers in 2021, 2022. I mean, you had Spider-Man No Way Home. You had Avatar The Way of Water. Both movies, well, Spider-Man made almost $2 billion. Avatar: The Way of Water made over $2 billion. Together, they made about $4 billion. Like 2023's December, it didn't have that. It had nothing even remotely close to that. So it just made the whole month feel like super depressing. I mean, Aquaman 2 was probably envisioned to be the big event movie of December, and boy, that sure didn't happen. So yeah, so let's go over the whole month of December. So as usual, I'm gonna be comparing my own personal predictions to what actually happened because I find that to be interesting. And I'm just gonna say right now with some of these predictions, I messed up real bad. I took a fat L on a lot of these predictions. I will fully admit that. But at least some of these L's were good L's where I underestimated a movie rather than overestimated. Like I'd much rather underestimate something because that looks better. So yeah. So actually, before we get to all the movies I made prediction videos for, I might as well go over the ones I didn't make prediction videos for. Just go over them briefly. So first, you have Animal, which came out December 1st. This is a Bollywood slash Tollywood. I'm not sure what's called anymore. Movie, and it did well for itself. Relatively. I mean, opened with like 6.5 million, be like over 13 million domestically. That's quite all right for what's a very very niche movie. And I might as well go over all the other foreign language movies that weren't Godzilla and Boy and the Heron. So there was that. Donkey. Donkey, I think that's how you say it. Donkey. That opened like 2 million, 2.7 million, made like 7.4 million. I mean, that's not too shabby for that. And then Salar Ceasefire, that opened with 50, geez, 5.6 million, although it had one of the worst opening weekends when it comes to legs. Like it fell 73% Friday to Saturday. Like that is madness. And it is the most front loaded opening weekend of all time. Like 68% of its weekend came from Friday, which is wild, real wild. And there was another movie here that I'll talk about much later that is number three, Anyone But You. That movie's going to be interesting to discuss because it did not go the way I thought it would. But, so that's like all the foreign language movies I didn't cover. I guess I could also mention Waitress the Musical. This was from a Fathom Events movie, and I don't cover those usually, so I just didn't. It was supposed to be like a 5 day or 5 night event, and for the 5 days, it did all right considering it's low. I guess low publicity. Lack of publicity or high publicity. Like it made like 4.2 million in like 5 days, which I mean isn't too bad for a movie like this. Then they decided to expand it afterwards. Horrible mistake because yeah, no one cared after that. It just died, and now it made like 5 million total. So you know it didn't make a whole lot of money, but you know what? Considering how bleak December was, every little bit helps. Okay, like the 5 million this made, that's 5 million that December wouldn't have made if it didn't release. So every little bit helps. But yeah, that's it for all the movies I didn't cover. Now all the movies I actually did cover. Let's begin with our December 1st movies, starting with Godzilla Minus One. So I predicted this would open with 10 million, make 20 million total. I said this because I had a feeling this would be like super front loaded, like only like hardcore Godzilla fans would show up like that opening day and then they would just burn out after that. That did not happen. No, not at all. It opened with like 11.4 million and it showed some legs. It showed some legs. It fell 25% the next weekend, and it already just shot past my final prediction. And ever since, it's been having good legs. Was able to, get through all the Christmas movies, and now it is very much poised to go past 50 million at the rate it's going. Yep, it will definitely go past 50 million, which is quite an achievement for a movie like this. I mean, it's actually the highest grossing live action Japanese movie ever in the States by a healthy margin. So that's great. And I actually did watch this movie. Yep. I initially had no plans to see it, but then I heard everyone talking about it, everyone raving about it, saying how great it was, how fantastic it was. And that made me go, you know, maybe I should watch this for myself. I mean, this is far from the first time that, you know, something getting like brave reviews gets me to try it out for myself. I mean, the same thing happened with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and like the first season of Invincible, and the first season of Squid Game. People were raving about it so much, and so that societal peer pressure made me want to watch it myself. And all those situations, I did not regret it. It's like the one time peer pressure is good when it recommends me stuff that I should watch. And I watched it, subtitles and all, and man, this movie is fantastic. It really is. Like, this Godzilla movie does something that really none of the American Godzilla movies were able to do, and that was to make me give a shit about the humans. And particularly our main character, our main guy, all he went through. And it helps that, Godzilla was a part of, Godzilla basically unintentionally fucked his life up like multiple times. And so there's that, that human element that really clicks with me with this movie. And even though the movie's like a low budget and only costs like 15 million, it looks really good. Like they spent that money well. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad it's done as well as it has. It deserves it. I'm hoping it gets like some awards, maybe some Oscars. Probably it might get like a foreign language Oscar. Maybe it's gonna be. I don't. I know there's like this and Boy The Heron. It might be between the two, but if either of them win, I will be satisfied. I'll be very satisfied. But yeah, Godzilla Minus One, I am glad it did well. It deserved it. It completely crushed my prediction. And that's a good thing because the early part of December was looking rough, real rough. And I'm glad it was able to, be successful. Although, I do believe the success of Minus One is going to hurt Godzilla X Kong because Minus One kind of makes the American Godzilla movies look like shit. I'm just gonna say it. It makes them look hella inferior. Well, some would say they are hella inferior, but it just makes them look a whole lot worse now. So, that's not great for that movie coming up. But yeah, I'm glad Godzilla Minus One did well. So next up we have Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. And this movie concert thing, it only exists because of the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert movie. Because as you remember, like several months back, like it was like summer, it was August of 2023. The writer strike and the actor strike were going on at the same were going on at the same time. Everything was at a standstill. Things were really looking bleak for the fall. Real, just it was just negative across the board, like a bunch of negative vibes. And I guess Taylor and her team. I mean, like the Eras Tour concert itself was massive. I think it's the highest grossing concert ever. Made like $1 billion, something like that. And so I guess Taylor and her team, they saw an opportunity. They were like, maybe we can take this concert, make a theatrical version of it, and we can make even more money. And so it was announced. It shocked everybody. The pre-sales went crazy. And when it came out in October, it was a big deal. Made a lot of money, destroyed all records for like concert movies. And I guess Beyonce and her team were like, that was what Taylor did was a good idea. Maybe we should do that ourselves and make our own money. And so Renaissance was announced, and now here we are. um, so I wanted to give you like the backstory to why this is even a thing. So with Renaissance, I predicted an opening weekend of 20 to 30 million, final total of 40 to 60 million. I knew this was going to be front loaded because Eras Tour was fairly front loaded. And I expect the same for this because obviously Beyonce fans, they were going to rush to see it opening night and then they just die out after that. Little did I know just how front loaded this movie would actually be. Like, it opened with 21.8 million, so it reached my weekend prediction. But even then, like, I saw some red flags. Its Friday number, like, had 5 million previews, and Friday was like barely doubling that. And then Friday to Saturday, it dropped like 48%. For comparison's sake, if I can pull it up, there we go. Godzilla Minus One only fell 21%, which is like way more reasonable. So yeah, it lost like half of its audience like after like one day. And then second weekend, it fell 75%, which is horrendous, but still not the worst drop of 2023, at least for a wide release, a super wide release. Because the Marvels dropped worse. That dropped like 78%. So congratulations, Beyonce. You didn't drop as hard as the Marvels. Good job. But after that, it fell off the face of the earth. And it only made like 33 million domestically. Literally, like, its opening weekend accounted for like 2/3 of its final gross, which is rough. And actually, Renaissance compared to Taylor Swift, comparing the two, its total was actually less than what the Eras Tour made on day one. Eras Tour made over 37 million Friday. So that doesn't look too great. um and obviously Renaissance was never ever going to perform on the same level as the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. It just wasn't going to happen because objectively Taylor Swift's audience is much bigger than Beyonce's. That's just a fact. Okay. Not to mention, like, Taylor Swift's audience is a lot more rabid and a lot younger. So they're more willing to, watch the movie like immediately. While Beyonce's audience is a lot older in comparison. They're not so willing to rush to the theater. But yeah, so it was never gonna reach Eras Tour. It was never gonna make Eras Tour money, but still, you imagine they were probably hoping for a bit better than this. Like AMC was hoping for a bit better for this movie, but it's not a terrible haul, but it's not great. It's far from great, but it's not terrible. So yeah, and what's next? The Shift. Let's talk about that for a brief moment. I predicted opening weekend of I think it was like 5 million, 4 to 5 million. It's probably 5 million. Final total of like 10 to 15. It made 4.3 million, so not good. And it made like 12 million total. And it is very much out of theaters, just gone. So yeah, I have nothing really to say about this. I know this is from the same studio, the same distributor as Sound of Freedom, but you can't expect something like that to just happen whenever you feel like it. Like that's gonna happen randomly when you least expect it. And with this, like no one was talking about it. It had like no like marketing push or anything. It had nothing, like no backing or anything. So it just kind of died out there. Um, so yeah, nothing else to say about that. What's next? Silent Night. All right. This movie actually interested me because of the fact that it's an action movie, but it had like next to no dialogue. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I was planning on watching it, but then that never happened. I didn't watch it. Um because like the reviews weren't the problem, is the audience reaction was like really bad. Like even way worse than you would expect for an action movie. I was like, "Damn, what's going on?" And so and plus watching this in like an empty theater sounded like really depressing, so I just didn't. um but yeah, I predicted an opening weekend of 2 to 3 million. That was like after like its Thursday previews and everything and the audience reception. Like if it was like several weeks prior to it release, I would have said like maybe it would maybe open with double digits, but no. So 2 to 3 million opening weekend. I predicted like 5 to 6 million total. It hit 3 million, so I was right on that one. And it made like 8 million total, so which is better than my final prediction, but we're talking about like pretty much nickels and dimes here. It's not we're not talking about like substantial numbers. So you had this okay second weekend, and then it just fell off the face of the earth once all those Christmas movies flooded the market. But yeah, but this is a movie I do want to see at some point. I don't know when. It's one of those movies that's on my radar that I want to see, but I don't know if I'll have the time to see. Like say Babylon from like 2022. Like I'm interested in that, but I don't know when I'll watch it. And so yeah, but Silent Night, I thought it would do a lot better. I thought the trailer was all right. I thought it sold a decent movie, but people just didn't they just didn't like it. They didn't connect with it. Didn't click, and no one watched it. So sad. So that was the first weekend of December, which very much avoided being like a total nothing weekend because historically the first weekend of December is wretched. Like it is nothing is going on. It is depressing as all hell because it's like post Thanksgiving. But at least this year, this last year, it's still I'm still getting used to calling 2023 last year because it really wasn't that long ago. But it made post Thanksgiving way more interesting and way more healthy than it usually is. So that was the first weekend of December. Now December 8th. The Boy and the Heron. Okay, another Japanese movie that it widely exceeded my expectations when it comes to box office. And unlike Godzilla Minus One, I didn't watch this. I wanted to, I really did, but it wasn't available in any of the theaters near me. So that upset me. So yeah, I wanted to see it, but I couldn't. Well, my prediction, I predicted 10 to 12 million opening weekend because I judged it by its Thursday preview numbers. Because initially I wasn't sure how this would do. Because like I know this is from Hayao Miyazaki, who's an absolute legend in the animation world, and from Studio Ghibli, again, legendary animation studio. And I knew like the fan base was big, but I was very niche at the same time. Like it wasn't like a huge. It wasn't like say like a Pix as big as say like the brand like a Pixar or a DreamWorks or like some on like that level of brand recognition. Like not on the same level as that, but it was Thursday previous up with like what over 2 million. I was like, okay, this movie might actually shine. And it did. It opened with 13 million. It was number one that weekend, which I believe is I think the only other time a Japanese animated movie was number one at the box office was Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Maybe. but there was that Pokemon movie from like 1999. I think there was that too. But yeah, it's rare to see like a foreign language movie be number one at the box office. So, good for Boy the Heron. And its legs were better than I expected. Like its second weekend was a little rough, fell 58%, but it was able to recover after that and is now made over 39 million, 39.4 million. It'll shoot past 40 million this coming weekend. So that's good. So it shot past my prediction. Well, actually, my final prediction was like 20 to 25 million. I forgot to mention that. It was the same. I thought like Godzilla Minus One, it would be very front loaded because like that audience would show up and then it would just burn out real quick. And it didn't help that this was like Hayao Miyazaki's last movie. I say last with air quotes because like his previous movie was supposed to be his last movie until it wasn't. So until he straight up says I'm not making any more movies, period, then I'm just gonna keep using air quotes when I say the word last when it comes to this movie. But this movie, it destroyed Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki's previous like box office records domestically. It just like shot past all the previous movies. And for the distributor, it's G Kids. Yes, G Kids. This is by far and away their biggest movie. It's not even close. Like, look at that. Just look at that. And I mean, yeah. And oh, I should mention its Japanese release was very interesting because they made a very bold decision to just not have any marketing for it except for like one poster, and that's it. So I had no trailers, no ads, nothing. Nothing, just a single poster. And it worked out. A big risk and it paid off. And now it's a hit worldwide. So glad to see it do well. I mean, like, I felt like the beginning of December, it was basically all about Japanese cinema. And, it was different and it was nice. And it was good that they did well because if they didn't do well, then the beginning of December would have been awful, absolutely horrific. So it's a good thing Born to Heron and Godzilla Minus One did as well as they did. Really helped the month out, make it less, ever so slightly less sad. But yeah, so Boy and the Heron, that was like the highlight of December 8th. Everything else, like, I don't really want to talk about it, but I might as well. Die Hard re-release. I predicted like $1 million opening weekend, like 2 to 3 million to its final total. Um, yeah, find it. It almost hit 1 million. It was close, like 934K. Then fell off after that, obviously, and it added. Well, there's like this gap between like its December 2020 release and its 2023 release. There's a gap there for some reason. So I'm gonna say it technically reached that 2 to 3 million mark, but whatever. I mean, there was no reason to watch this on the big screen. I know it was like the 25th, no 35th. Yes, 35th anniversary. But this movie, like, it's been widely available to view for years, decades, from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to 4K to streaming TV. You can watch it like on any of those. Like, there's no reason to watch this on a big screen. Again, no reason. Just like how there's no reason to watch Love Actually on the big screen again. No point when it's been widely available on home media for 2 decades and on TV. Like, you're just better off watching it there, watching on those instead of like going out to the theater. But Love Actually also got re-released. I predicted like much lower numbers. I think like 500K to 1 million. I think, and its final total like 2 million. It didn't even get close to that, man. It hit 283K and then fell off the face of the earth. after that. So yeah, uh, not a great time. And again, like no reason to watch this on the big screen. So I'm not surprised nobody did. I'm so yeah. And then we've got The Oath, a movie that appeared. I predicted an opening weekend of like 250K to a 500K, a final total of like a million. It didn't even reach like half a million. It reached like 232K, and then like it released, if just crumbled immediately, just died after opening weekend. So I'm not surprised. This had no marketing. No one on planet Earth knew what this was. It had nothing going for it. And as a result, nobody watched it. So yeah. Yeah. So nothing else to say about that. That was December 8th. And now, December 15th, we get to the big movies. Well, actually the biggest movie of December. Get to talk about Wonka. And there's quite a bit to discuss here. So Wonka, I predicted an opening weekend of 35 million to, I think it may have been 35 million, and a final total of 150 million plus. I put the plus there because I had a feeling it would do better than that, because December movies are notoriously difficult to predict, especially their legs. Because December movies, their legs are not normal. Like they will go on way longer than they should. I mean, look at like Greatest Showman. That opened with like 8 million and it made like 170 million domestically. That is not how the box office usually works. But for that movie, it kept going and going and going forever, seemingly. So with Wonka, I figured this was gonna have long legs. And opened with 39 million, so exceeded my prediction. Actually, fun fact, I believe this had the biggest opening weekend for a musical like not made by Disney, live action or animated. So that's pretty significant. I mean, it's better than Les Mis, it's better than Hairspray, better than Mamma Mia. So yeah, I say that's pretty significant. And its legs, second weekend was rough, although that was because of Christmas Eve. That was gonna kill every movie. But after that, it was able to recover around Christmas, and as you can see here, it pretty much just was number one for like the rest of the holidays. Like it was number one opening weekend, lost. It was number two after Aquaman 2, and then after Christmas, it was number one the rest of the holiday. Went up third weekend by 25%, and it was number one this past weekend, and now it has made 167 million domestically as of January 10th. And it still has gas in the tank to the point where I can see it realistically surpassing 200 million, which would be great because December really needs that. Because again, December was very depressing. It was not fun to witness. But if this can hit 200 million, then that'll make December look slightly less terrible than it really was. And with Wonka, I did watch the movie. I watched it. I thought it was all right. I had a decent enough time with it. With Timothy Chalamet, I was extremely skeptical about him being Willy Wonka because I didn't see it. And even in the trailers, I didn't see it either. But like in the movie, I'm like, okay, I can see it now. Like he's not bad. He's not Johnny Depp Willy Wonka. Johnny Depp Willy Wonka is my Willy Wonka, and that's not going to change for nothing. But Timothy Chalamet, I thought he was all right. And the music, the songs, I thought were good. I'm not literally a musical guy, but with the songs in here, I'm like, all right, you know, these aren't making me like physically cringe or anything. But the one thing I will say, the production design for this movie was amazing. Like some of those sets, like I was like, damn, this is impressive. Like it really just blew me away how it looked visually. And worldwide it's a hit, absolute hit. It cost 125 million, made almost 500 million worldwide, so definite hit right here. And it's so congratulations, Wonka. You were the big winner of December, and you're probably going to be one of the biggest movies of 2023 when it's all said and done. So, hats off to you. um, and at this point, it may or may not surpass the 2005 movie Charlie and Chocolate Factory domestically. That remains to be seen, but I can see it matching it now. But yeah, Wonka, the big winner of December. Now we move on to all these damn Christmas movies. There were way too many coming out at once. It was insane. It was awful to do. I had to make 4 videos on Wednesday the 20th, and those were for like Anyone But You, Aquaman, Ironclaw, and Migration. And then on Friday the 22nd, I made another 4 videos about Color Purple, Boys in the Boat, Ferrari, and Poor Things. And those days that killed me. That's the reason why I took that sabbatical. Like, I basically put my channel on ice for almost 2 weeks. So yeah, now I get to talk about all these movies. Woo! So let's begin with Anyone But You. This movie is an enigma to me. Its performance is an enigma because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because like going to the weekend, I predicted an opening weekend of like 3 to 4 million, 5 to 7 for a 4 day, and it's final to like 20 to 25 million. Like before it was coming out, I felt no heat, no buzz, no energy. I just thought it was just gonna, it was there to get just, they just threw it out there and they just let it die to make like a couple dollars on Christmas. And I thought that was what was gonna happen. And its opening weekend was 6 million, which was better than I expected. But its weekend was brutal. Like holy shit! It had a decent preview number. Its Friday was meh, and then Saturday happened, fell 59%, and then Sunday happened, Christmas Eve, 57% drop. So it pretty much lost. Doing the math, it lost about 80% of its audience in like between Friday and Sunday, which is just just an absolute horror show. And as I already mentioned, it's the third most front loaded at the third most front loaded opening weekend ever. Like 58% came from Friday. That is worse than the One Direction movie. That's worse than friggin' Fault in Our Stars, any of the Twilight movies. And like this was just like a rom-com. It didn't have like brand name recognition or anything. It didn't have like a big fan base fueling it. So I thought that was really weird. And then it only got stranger from there because it recovered Christmas Day. That was to be expected. And then after that, it gained momentum every single day, for the rest of that week. Like, look at that. All these numbers going up. I was like, huh, that's really weird. I would expect this for like a family movie, not an R-rated rom-com. But then second weekend, it gained a lot of momentum. It went up by 46%, and it made like 24 million. So it pretty much already matched my final prediction tally. I'm like, okay, this won't be a total bust. Cool. But then it kept getting weirder, man. Third weekend, post holiday, no Christmas, no New Year's, nothing. Went up 11%. It went up again. Went literally every movie, like every wide release movie. Well, Iron Claw was kind of like the same, even though it felt like 3% and more or less made the same amount of money. But every other movie here dropped. Not Anyone But You. It refused to drop. It went up again. And now it's made 47 million domestically, basically doubling my final prediction. And it's been number one at the box office for this week. These weekdays. It's been number one. I don't get it. I don't know. I I don't know. I don't know what's happening. This is like the greatest showman or Puss in Boots last wish type shit going on here. Granted on a much lower level, but still it's wild to me that this is doing as it's performing this well. Because it's not like word of mouth. Like word of mouth wasn't like awful or anything, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly positive. So I don't really get why its legs have been so ridiculous. Maybe like the target audience really liked it. Maybe they discovered it. That's what I've been hearing, that people have been discovering this movie after it came out. Basically what happened with Greatest Showman and Puss in Boots The Last Wish. And that's why its legs have been so good. But still, it's so weird. So weird. Because like rom-coms have been doing awful the last few years. Like they pretty much died theatrically, but this may actually bring it back. Like it might be saved on the big screen, which I'd say is a good thing because you gotta have variety when it comes to the movies being released. You can't just have them all be of the same genre or all be of specific genres. Like ideally you want a ton of genres to succeed at once. So by bringing the rom-com back, a genre that was once huge back in the day, that's only a good thing, for especially for theaters. So, yeah, Anyone But You, congratulations, you've become the strangest box office story of December for me. Um, and yeah, congrats. I mean, you're definitely a much bigger hit than Aquaman 2. So let's talk about that next. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Oof. All right. So I predicted an opening weekend of 30 million, 4-day 40 million. And its final total, I think, I forgot the number, maybe 100 to 125 million, something along those lines. I think. And opening weekend it opened with like 27.6, and I was like, oh no. And it's 4-day. Might as well mention that it made 38 million, so I'm like, oh dear God. And its opening week was like hella front loaded too, mainly because of Christmas Eve. It fell like 34%, which compared to everything else was like hella steep in comparison. But then it fell like another 40% of the weekend after, and now it has made 102 million domestically. These numbers, they're not good at all for multiple reasons. One, compared to the original Aquaman, it's pathetic. It is so pathetic. I can't even like let's just look at the numbers. So I could really just show you just how bad this really is. So Aquaman, the first one. Both of these movies came out at basically around the same time. Almost the same day. They're only like a day apart. But yeah, the first Aquaman opened with 67 million. Well, 72. That includes some preview numbers. Yeah, 67 million. So literally, Aquaman 2's opening weekend was like less than half out of the gate. And Aquaman 2 has been around for like almost, it's about to hit its fourth weekend. I believe how many days has it been in theaters? I'm trying to remember. This would be 17, 18, 19, 20, 20 days. 20 days. And yet it's made less than what the first Aquaman made in like 5. So yeah, and then looking at it, like it's the gap between the movies is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's only, yeah, just look at this. 102 versus 268. Like, do I even need to say anything about that? So, yeah, and worldwide, it's not much better. Like, Aquaman made $1 billion. It's the only DCU movie to make $1 billion. It's the biggest DC movie of all time, which still perplexes me to this very day. Aquaman Lost Kingdom won't even make half of that. Like, it might reach 400 million, but that's as high as it's gonna go. It's not gonna reach 500 million. So, yeah, very bad. So, what happened? What caused this? Multiple things. Well, the main thing is that the DCEU was dead. It was dead for like a year, pretty much. Like once, like after Black Adam, like once it was announced that James Gunn, Peter Safran were going to make a new DC universe, the DCU, that was going to start with Superman Legacy and all that. Any interest in these DCEU movies died immediately. There was no point in watching them anymore. They were worthless. They weren't going to lead to anything. And yeah, no point in seeing them. And I didn't watch any of them. I skipped out on all of them. Like, because it was pointless. Because, like, it was absolutely pointless. And with The Flash, like, I didn't want to watch that anyway because of, Ezra Miller. But Aquaman Lost Kingdom, I didn't want to see it because of Amber Heard, because I just don't like her at all. Like, she just, especially with the whole thing with Johnny Depp, just no. um, and apparently she's only in the movie for like a little bit, like I think like 10 or so minutes. Like she's there and then she just gets like just kicked out of the movie. Like she gets apparently puts in like a coma or something, and she's like gone for most of the movie, which tells me that this movie must have gone through some serious reworking, like some reshoots, because there's no way that was the original plan. I refuse to believe that was the original plan. But yeah, I just want to mention that. But yeah, the DCU movies, like 2023 was just, it was, I can't describe how awful it was. It was the most brutal death to a franchise I've ever seen, for any franchise ever. Because usually franchises, like, they die after like one movie. Like one movie, one big bomb kills it all. The DCU had 4 of those in 2023. You had Shazam 2, which bombed spectacularly. You had The Flash, which bombed even harder on a much bigger scale. And then you got Blue Beetle, which, out of all the movies, definitely, deserved failure the least, but it still failed miserably. And then you got Aquaman 2. And at that point, after Blue Beetle flopped, I'm just like, Aquaman 2 is doomed. It's gonna die. It's over. And guess what? It was over. It was over before it even began. Long before it even began. So, yeah, so the DCEU, just the epic reign of, I don't even know, like, the epic disaster that was its last, year in existence. Yeah, definitely killed Aquaman's two's chances. And also the fact that, superhero movies, there's been a lot of talk of superhero fatigue. And I think there's definitely a whole lot of truth to that, because 2023 was horrible for the genre. Out of like the 8 movies that came out, I believe there was 8. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6. There were 8. Yes, out of the 8, only two were successful. Guardians 3 and Across the Spider-Verse. Everything else, bomb. Just bomb. All of them. So, yeah, like a 25% success rate. That is just beyond horrid. So, yeah. So, definitely, this movie's failure was a mix of the DCEU being dead and, superhero fatigue. That as well. And also the fact that the marketing was so weak. It felt like Warner Brothers, they just gave up. They threw their hands in the air and just said, fuck it. It's over. Like, so marketing wise, the movie was weak. No one was talking about it, and if they were talking about it, they were talking about it negatively. Like, it didn't have like the same level of push as like the first Aquaman. Or even the same level as push as Wonka. Like, I can already tell, like, Warner Brothers, they truly gave up at this point. So, bad marketing, label that, and bad reviews, they didn't help at all. And yeah, like, this is it. This is how the DCEU died. It's sad funeral. Like, this was the funeral of the DCEU, and no one gave a shit. I certainly didn't give a shit. Well, I mainly just watched this box office just to laugh at it, just like how I did with The Flash. But yeah, it's sad into one of the biggest missed potentials in the history of Hollywood, the DCU. I bet people are going to be writing like books, making articles, all the articles about how badly Warner Brothers fumbled the bag with the DCEU. So yeah, and considering the fact that like Aquaman 1 was so successful like 5 years ago, well now 6 years ago, like late 2018. The superhero genre was at its peak at that point, and look at it now. It is truly just depressing, but also not unexpected. So yeah, that was Aquaman 2. So let's move on to something a little more positive. Iron Claw. I did see this movie. I watched it, and I thought it was really good. The performances were very good. I thought it took itself. It took it. I know wrestling gets a lot of flack because it's ha ha ha, it's fake lol, because it's like scripted and pre-planned and all that. But I thought it took like the subject matter of wrestling like, fairly seriously. It wasn't just like a big joke. And the movie was hella depressing because the real life story behind the movie is hella depressing. But I thought it was a really good flick. But now for its box office, I predicted the opening weekend of, I believe, like 5 to 7 million 3 day, and maybe less than 10 million for the 4 day. I don't remember exactly. Its final total was like 25 million, I think. I don't remember. And it opened with like 4.8 million. I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. And um after that, its legs were like all solid. It was able to recover after that. It only dropped 4% uh the weekend after, and I should mention it was the weekend was also horribly front loaded. Like over 50% of its weekend came from Friday. Because look at these drops: 38%, 47%, yeet. But it fell 4% the next weekend. It fell 3% the weekend after. So that's good. And it's made like 24 million. Its weekday numbers haven't been updated yet. But at the rate it's going, I could see this going past 30 million, which I believe would make this the biggest wrestling movie ever. It would be bigger than The Wrestler, than Fighting with My Family, and with Raid Rumble. There are not a whole lot of wrestling movies like, but I guess I don't know, and they don't really do that well. I guess because wrestling is big. It is a huge thing. With WWE being as big as it is. But I guess if you're not in the wrestling bubble, you're not gonna care. So yeah, so this movie basically appealed to wrestling fans, but like anyone who wasn't a wrestling fan, I mean, they probably would have watched it out of curiosity, or they just would have been like, I'll watch something else. So yeah, Iron Claw. I was hoping it would do a little better than this, but this performance isn't like too bad. It's okay. It's all right for what it is, and for A24, I think it's one of their bigger movies, right? It is. It's one of their bigger movies, so that's good. It's good for them. I mean, 2023 was all right. I mean, they had like "Talk to Me," which was one of their biggest hits ever. So yeah, Iron Claw, liked it. I was hoping it would do a little better, but as it is, its performance is okay. Now we move on to Migration from Illumination. I predicted an opening weekend of like 10 to 15 million, like 15 to 24 day, and this final total between like 75 and 175. I had a super wide range like that because family movies and around Christmas, they can go wild with their numbers. Like I've seen that happen like many times in the past. So I thought Migration might see something similar. It hit 12 million opening weekend, so I was correct on that. 17 million for the 4 days, so I was correct there too. And then it predictably gained momentum like after Christmas, because you would like on Christmas Day, family movies don't do that great because obviously kids are preoccupied with their presents and all that. But like at once Christmas is over, like then they start to pop off. And you saw it here, like it went up like 37% the next weekend, and then this past weekend fell 41% because no more Christmas boost. That boost is over, and now it has made 79 million as of January 10th. So like its weekdays have died completely. Well, that's expected because school, school's back in session. So at its current rate, I can see this hitting 100 million. It should hit 100 million. It kind of has to, because it's this movie isn't doing that hot, and for Illumination standards, it's hella weak, especially compared to like last year. They had the Super Mario Brothers movie crush everything, right? Like that movie did insane. It was it looked like it was going to be the biggest movie of 2023, but that was before Barbie swooped in and took that spot. But like Super Mario Brothers movie made over 500 million domestically, 1.3 billion worldwide. Madness. And like for Illuminations, like other movies, I mean 900, 400, 400, 5 billion, 6, 800, a billion, 900, like these numbers are crazy. And Migration is like on the same level as fucking Hop. So yeah, that's not great at all. Like one could argue this is Illumination's first real flop, but it's not like a huge flop or anything. Illumination, like they don't spend that much money on these movies. Like they're very reasonable with their budgets, so this movie won't lose too much money. It probably won't lose any money, but it'll definitely be a bit of a black mark on their resume, their box office resume, because they were killing it for like the longest time. And this just didn't click. I don't know if it was because of lackluster marketing. I don't know. They didn't like try too hard with the marketing like they did with like their other movies. Like, with Secret Life of Pets and Sing, like advertisements for those, they were everywhere. Like they pushed those movies like it was no tomorrow. Same goes with the Super Mario Brothers movie. They pushed that like it was no tomorrow. Although that had brand name recognition fueling it. This didn't. So yeah, Illumination will be. This is just a very very minor setback. They got Despicable Me 4, later this year, so they'll be more than fine. They'll live. But yeah, I'd say this is their first true L, because at least Secret Life of Pets 2, even though that was a huge disappointment, it still made well over 100 million. Still made like over 400 million worldwide. So at least at that, Migration's not gonna get anywhere near that. So while Migration's performance isn't like horrible, it's not very good, especially for Illumination standards. So yeah. What else? Oh, Poor Things. Should talk about that. This movie, like, just look at the poster. It's weird as hell. But I didn't see it. But I predicted an opening weekend. I think it was like 2 to 3 million for a 3 day, 4 to 5 for 4 day, and a final total of like, I had a wide range, like 10, 20, 30 million. And it hit 2 million when it went wide, and it went up a bit the following weekend, then it went down just a little bit this past weekend, and now it has made 15 million domestically, so it's hitting my range of expectations. And not much to say. I mean, for a limited release, this is like better than most that have come out like during like the past year. And with award season like in full swing, I can see this gaining a little more momentum. This getting a little more eyeballs, and it should probably like move like past its current spot like with 15 million. I don't know how much it will make total. That very much remains to be seen. But as it is, for what it is, it's fine. Even though like with its budget, it's not so fine. It's not here. I think it was like 30 million budget or something like that. So it's not really a hit, but with award season, you never know. You never know. So yeah, not much else to say about that. And now we're almost done. Okay, it's almost over. We move on to the Christmas movies. The movies that came out Christmas Day on a Monday, which was very weird. Because movies opening on a Monday, that is just not right. Like I can accept Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't accept Monday or Tuesday, and I sure as shit don't expect accept Saturday or Sunday. Like that. This is not. This is not normal. But let's go over these Christmas movies. First of all, Boys in the Boat. I predicted an opening weekend. Well, yeah. Well, I had to do opening day predictions. I never do that, but because it's open on a Monday, I had to. I think I predicted an opening day of like 2 to 3 million and a weekend of like I don't even know 5 to 7 ish million, maybe a final total of like 20 something million. I think because like I didn't feel like much hype or energy for this, and the reviews weren't very good going into it, so I thought it would just be busted Oscar bait, and no one would care about it. But I was wrong. People did care about it. Not a whole lot of people cared about it, but more than I expected. At an opening day of 5.7 million, I was like, okay, this movie has some momentum behind it. All right. Then it crumbled a little bit after that. It wasn't able to maintain that momentum, but its opening weekend was 8 million, and second weekend it felt like 34 million. And now it's made 35 million. Has 35 million total. So these numbers aren't like amazing or anything, but they're a lot better than I expected because I thought this movie would just go completely under the radar. No one would even think about it, but it has found a bit of an audience. So that's good. But yeah, so this performance, it's not spectacular, but it could have been a lot worse. A whole lot worse. Could have been Ferrari. But I'll talk about that later. But before we talk about Ferrari, let's talk about the color purple. Okay, this movie's box office is also an enigma, like Anyone But You, but in a negative way, the polar opposite of Anyone But You. Because with Anyone But You, it had a low start, but it managed to gain momentum over time. Like Color Purple did not do that at all. Like I predicted an opening day of like 10 to 15 million, around that range, and a opening weekend of like between like I think it was like 10 to 20 million or maybe 15 to 20 million, and a final total I don't even remember. Oh, I'm struggling. Was it like 100 million or so? But then it had its opening day 18 million, which I believe was the biggest opening day for like a Christmas opening day since like 2009, which was I think it was Sherlock Holmes, which is also from Warner Brothers. Funny enough, can I just mention Warner Brothers released 3 movies at pretty much at once, like in December. Three: Wonka, Aquaman 2, and Color Purple, all at the same time. You never see that ever with studios. Usually they like to space out their movies, but not Warner Brothers. They just wanted to have a trifecta. Just they threw it out there, and I'm obviously theaters weren't going to complain, but yeah, I thought that was a little weird. But anywho, yeah, Color Purple. It's opening day up of 18 million. I was like, damn, that is impressive. That is awesome. Maybe 2023 won't end on such a sad note. And so I thought for sure it would make like 100 million. I thought it would be guaranteed. especially with considering how good word of mouth was and everything, like reviews and word of mouth. Then day two hit, and it fell 61%, which is the most extreme drop out of all the movies here. Like, look at this. It's not even close. Like, it's bad. I'm just like, damn, what happened? Where did that momentum go? And I thought, okay, so must have been that Christmas Day buzz. Maybe after that it will slow the bleeding and do all right. No. It kept dropping like a fucking stone. It fell 45% the next day, then 50% the next day. It went from 18 million to 3 million in 4 days. Like, what the hell? And then its opening weekend officially was 11.7 million. So literally it made like its opening weekend, like its official opening weekend was less than what it made on its first day. And I'm just like, I don't remember the last time that happened for a Christmas movie. I don't remember a Christmas movie being like this front loaded. And then when I think it couldn't get worse, it got worse. It fell 60% its second weekend, and now it's made like 55 million as of the recording of this video. So what the fuck went wrong here? Like, after opening day, this should have been a guaranteed 100 million movie. And then it just plummeted. It crumbled so quick. I don't know what went wrong. Maybe it's because I have my theories. Maybe it's because this movie's audience, it may have had like it may have had the same problems. Like, I guess, how do I say this? It's like Tyler Perry's movies from back in the day when he was like pumping them out frequently. Like, those movies had like solid openings, but then they fell off the face of the earth. They crumbled. They died afterwards. This had the same problem as that, where like I guess like the same type of audience who watched like the Tyler Perry movies, like watched The Color Purple. Like, they showed up in droves opening day, and after that they never saw it again. There was no repeat business. So like that's my theory. The fact, and I guess some other movies kind of dealt with that. I know there was like All Eyes on Me with like the Tupac movie, where that had a very strong opening day and then it just died real quick afterwards. This is experiencing the same problem. And yeah, at this point it's looking like a bomb. I thought it would be a hit, but now it's looking like a huge flop because this movie costs like $90 million. It's not going to reach that domestically. Not a fucking hope. So, and this movie's not going to make jack like overseas because, historically, movies that are have black leads, or like that, they don't do that well internationally. I don't know if it's a race thing. It's probably a race thing, but they just don't do well internationally. And yeah, it's a bomb. Like, it was looking like a hit for a moment, but then that hope died real quick. So yeah, Color Purple, a movie I thought would be a hit, ended up being a huge flop. So yeah. Now for the last movie, a movie I expected to be a flop and was a flop. Ferrari. I predicted an opening day of like 1 to 2 million, and opening weekend of like maybe like 2 to 3, and a final total of like 10 to 20, I think. And it did better than I expected, but like with some of my other movies, we're talking about like nickels and dimes. We're not talking about anything significant. Up with 2.8 million Christmas Day. Like Color Purple and Boys in the Boat, it was not able to maintain that momentum afterwards. And its opening weekend was 3.9 million. And now it has made 15 million. Although its weekday numbers haven't been like updated. But it'll probably, I don't know if it'll hit 20 million. I feel like it's going to get kicked out of a ton of theaters because it's been doing so poor. um But yeah, this performance is bad, but I expected it to be bad. This movie had like no hype going into it, no buzz, no energy at all. And there wasn't like some last minute surge, like say with, Boys in the Boat or like Anyone But You. Like this movie was just doomed from the get go. It didn't help it cost so much money. It cost like 90 something $1 million. Although apparently this Neon, the distributor, they don't have to deal with that budget. They're just distributing it. So, it's not like their problem. But yeah, I expect this to flop. It flopped hard, and I don't have anything else to say. So that was December. I know that was a lot. Don't worry, January won't have too many movies to deal with, so that video will be a lot shorter than this, I would imagine. But yeah, so that was December, and so yeah, that was the end of 2023. 2023, what a year, man. It started out like it was such a weird year. Like God, like it had so many like ups and downs, like twists and turns. Like where it looked like really positive going into summer, and then those strikes happened, and then everything went wrong. But at least we had Barbenheimer, okay. You know, yeah, that and plenty of other success stories. But yeah, 2023 was hella weird, and I will discuss that in my two-part recap video next week, where I go over like the winners and the losers. Okay, I'll do that next week, so stay tuned for those videos. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous recap videos I made on the channel. I already mentioned like future 2023 recap videos. Stay tuned for those. If you want to watch any other ones I've done on the channel, go right ahead. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. Pretty much nearly every movie I talked about here, I made a prediction video for. So if you want to watch any of those prediction videos, you can watch on my 2023 playlist. And while there's really nothing on my 2024 playlist, not yet. You can watch any of my, if you want to watch any of my past prediction videos I've done on the channel, you can go right ahead. And there's also, oh yeah, I should also mention, I'm gonna be doing like some prediction videos this weekend. I got like 4 to do this weekend: Beekeeper, Book of Clarence, Mean Girls, and Soul. So stay tuned for those as well. And am I missing anything? Am I missing? Oh yeah, canceled. All the all the movies I was supposed to come out but didn't, like that series. I want to do a cancel episode after I film this video, but that I don't know if I really want to. I'm not sure. Maybe I will. I probably will. But I've now made 226 episodes of canceled, soon to be 227. So, yeah, plenty to choose from there. So if you want to watch any of the past cancel episodes I made on the channel, go right ahead. You want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.